At 3 in the morning, the CEO, the bully, the millionaire, the beautiful stranger, the person who rejected you, and the person you are terrified to confront all look surprisingly similar. No audience, no expensive clothes, no impressive entrances, no one watching them. Just another human being lying in darkness with thoughts they cannot control and problems you know nothing about. Remember that the next time someone walks into a room and your confidence suddenly disappears. You are not standing before a god, you are standing before another fragile human being. And when you truly understand that, something inside you becomes very difficult to intimidate. Chapter 1. Stop making other people bigger than you. One of the fastest ways to lose confidence is to make another person seem bigger and more important than you in your mind. You see someone successful, wealthy, attractive, educated, confident, or powerful, and suddenly you become nervous around them. You watch every word, worry about making a mistake, and start seeking their approval. But no matter how impressive someone looks, they are still human. They have fears, insecurities, weaknesses, failures, and difficult days that you may never see. Never confuse someone's position with their value as a person. A boss may have authority over your work, but not over your dignity. A wealthy person may have more money, but that does not make them more valuable than you. Someone may speak confidently, but confidence does not always mean they are right. Respect people and learn from them, but never place them above yourself. You do not need to feel superior to anyone, and you do not need to feel inferior either. The moment you stop making people giants in your imagination, they lose the power to make you feel small. Chapter 2. Let people dislike you without losing yourself. A huge amount of fear comes from wanting everyone to approve of you. You want people to understand your decisions, respect your boundaries, appreciate your kindness, and agree with your choices. But when your peace depends on everyone liking you, you give other people too much control. Someone becomes disappointed and you change your decision. Someone criticizes you and you begin doubting yourself. Someone threatens to leave and you sacrifice what is right for you just to keep them happy. You must accept that some people will misunderstand you, no matter how carefully you explain yourself. Some people will dislike your boundaries because they benefited when you had none. Others may judge you simply because you stopped living according to their expectations. This does not mean you should become rude or stop caring about people. It means you should stop changing yourself every time someone disagrees with you. Not every criticism deserves a response, and not every misunderstanding needs an explanation. Listen when someone gives you useful advice, but do not let every opinion decide how you see yourself. Sometimes people will dislike your choices, and you must be strong enough to continue anyway. You cannot control what people think about you, but you can decide whether their opinions control your life. Chapter 3. Face the problem before your mind turns it into a monster. Many problems become more frightening in your mind than they are in real life. Something small happens, and before you understand what is really going on, your imagination begins creating the worst possible story. You receive one difficult message and immediately think everything is going wrong. You make one mistake and start believing your future is damaged. Someone becomes quiet with you, and you assume they are angry, leaving, or planning something against you. The real problem may still be small, but your mind has already turned it into something much bigger. Fear grows when you keep thinking about what could happen instead of dealing with what is actually happening. Your mind begins asking, what if this gets worse? What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if I lose everything? These questions can continue for hours, but they do not solve anything. They only make you feel weaker before you have even taken the first step. When a problem appears, bring your attention back to the present. Ask yourself, what is the real problem right now? Do not think about every possible disaster that could happen next month or next year. Focus on what you know today. Maybe you need to make a phone call, Ask someone a question, correct a mistake, have an uncomfortable conversation, gather more information, or simply wait until you know more. Most problems become easier when you stop looking at the entire mountain and focus only on the next step. You must also understand that avoiding a problem usually makes fear stronger. When you keep delaying the conversation, ignoring the message, avoiding the decision, or pretending the situation does not exist, the problem stays alive in your mind. Every day you avoid it, your imagination adds more fear to it. But the moment you finally face it, something changes. Even if the problem is difficult, at least you are no longer fighting something imaginary. You are dealing with reality. Action gives your mind a sense of control. When you make the call, ask the question, begin the work, or take one clear step, you prove to yourself that you are not helpless. You may not be able to solve everything immediately, but you can almost always do something useful. That small action is important because it tells your mind, I can face this. Do not wait until you feel completely fearless before taking action. Sometimes courage comes after you begin, not before. You may still feel nervous while having the conversation. You may still feel uncertain while making the decision. You may still feel uncomfortable while dealing with the problem. That is normal. Courage does not mean you feel nothing. It means fear is present, but it is no longer making the decision for you. Remember, you do not need a life without problems. Such a life does not exist. What you need is confidence in your ability to handle problems when they come. Instead of telling yourself, I hope nothing goes wrong, begin telling yourself, if something goes wrong, I will deal with it. That thought is much stronger because it does not depend on life being perfect. Many things you once feared have already passed. Problems that once kept you awake are now memories. Situations you thought you could not handle were eventually handled. That is proof that your mind often makes the future look more frightening than it really is. So when a problem appears, do not give it days or weeks to grow inside your imagination. Look at it clearly, understand what is real, and take the next useful step. The faster you face reality, the less time fear has to turn a simple problem into a monster. Chapter 4. Stop rehearsing fear before anything has happened. A lot of fear does not come from what is happening right now. It comes from what you imagine might happen later. Your mind creates a future problem, then your body reacts as if that problem is already real. You think about tomorrow's conversation and feel nervous tonight. You think about next week's meeting and start worrying days before it happens. You think about asking for something and already imagine rejection. You think about trying something new and immediately picture failure. Nothing has happened yet, but you are already suffering from it. This is one of the most exhausting habits a person can have. You begin living through painful situations before they even exist. You imagine what someone might say, how badly things might go, how embarrassed you might feel, or how much you might lose. Then you replay these possibilities again and again until your mind starts treating them like facts. Fear becomes stronger not because something terrible happened, but because you rehearsed something terrible so many times that it began to feel certain. You have to learn the difference between preparation and fear. Preparation says, something difficult may happen, so let me be ready. Fear says, something difficult will happen, and I probably will not be able to handle it. Preparation helps you act. Fear keeps you trapped in your head. Preparation looks for useful steps. Fear keeps creating new reasons to worry. When you notice this difference, you begin to understand that not every anxious thought deserves your attention. Your mind will often ask questions like, what if they reject me? What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if they become angry? What if everything goes wrong? These questions sound important, but most of the time they do not lead anywhere. They simply create more fear. Instead of answering every what if with another frightening story, remind yourself of something simple. I do not know what will happen yet. That sentence can bring you back to reality. You do not know that you will be rejected. You do not know that the conversation will become an argument. You do not know that the meeting will go badly. You do not know that the opportunity will disappear. You do not know that the person will respond the way you fear. You are trying to predict something that has not happened yet, and fear usually predicts the worst. But uncertainty does not only contain bad possibilities. It also contains good ones. The conversation might go better than expected. The person might understand you. The meeting might create a new opportunity. The situation you are afraid of might become easier once you actually enter it. Someone may help you. You may discover that you are more capable than you thought. There are many possible outcomes, but fear keeps showing you only the darkest one. You also need to stop believing that worrying gives you control. Sometimes people worry because they feel that if they think about every possible problem, they will somehow be protected from surprise. But worry does not control the future. It only steals your peace in the present. You can think about a problem for 5 hours and still not know what will happen. You can imagine 20 different outcomes, and reality may still give you something completely different. When you notice yourself rehearsing fear, bring yourself back to what is in front of you. Ask yourself, is there something useful I can do right now? If there is, do it. Prepare for the meeting. Write down what you want to say. Gather the information you need. Practice the skill. Make a plan. But once you have done what you can, stop mentally living inside the future. You do not need to solve tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. You only need to handle what belongs to today. This becomes especially important when you are dealing with people who intimidate you. You may spend hours imagining how they will react before you even speak to them. You imagine their face, their tone, their anger, and their judgment. By the time you meet them, you are already mentally defeated. You have given them power before they have even said a word. Instead, enter the situation with a more balanced mindset. Tell yourself, I will listen. I will stay calm. I will say what needs to be said. I will handle their reaction when it happens. That is much stronger than trying to predict every possible response. The same is true with failure. Many people never begin because they mentally experience failure before taking the first step. They imagine being laughed at, losing money, wasting time, or looking foolish. But there is something even more dangerous than failure: spending years avoiding your life because you were afraid of what might happen. You will never have complete certainty. No one does. Every important decision contains some unknown. Every relationship contains risk. Every opportunity contains the possibility of rejection. Every change contains discomfort. If you demand certainty before moving forward, you will stay stuck for a very long time. Courage means learning to move without knowing everything. It means saying, I do not know exactly how this will turn out, but I am willing to find out. That mindset changes your relationship with fear. You stop trying to remove every uncomfortable feeling before acting. You stop waiting for perfect confidence. You stop expecting life to give you guarantees that life cannot give. And something powerful begins to happen. Every time you move forward without knowing the outcome, you build trust in yourself. You realize that uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it is survivable. You realize that nervousness does not mean you should stop. You realize that a fearful thought is not always a warning. Sometimes it is simply your mind reacting to something unfamiliar. Think about how many things in your past you worried about that never happened. Think about how many conversations went better than expected. Think about how many situations seemed terrifying until you finally faced them. Your mind has probably predicted disaster many times and been wrong many times. So stop treating every fearful prediction like a fact. When tomorrow comes, deal with tomorrow. When the conversation begins, deal with the conversation. When the problem becomes real, deal with the real problem. Until then, do not punish yourself with imaginary suffering. You only have so much energy every day. Do not waste it fighting battles that have not started, defending yourself against words nobody has said, or recovering from failures that have not happened. Prepare when preparation is useful, but do not rehearse fear. The future will arrive on its own. When it does, meet it with a clear mind, and whatever comes, trust yourself to deal with what is real instead of being defeated by what you imagined. Chapter 5. Never let aggressive people decide how small you become. Some people try to control others through pressure, anger, harsh words, or intimidation. They raise their voice, interrupt you, speak as if their opinion is the only one that matters, or try to make you feel weak before you even get the chance to respond. Sometimes they do this because they are used to getting their way. Other times, they do it because they know that if they can make you nervous, they can make you easier to control. The mistake many people make is believing that aggression automatically means strength. It does not. A person can be loud and still be insecure. A person can be demanding and still be emotionally weak. A person can speak with confidence and still be completely wrong. Real strength does not always need to shout. In many situations, the calmest person in the room has more control than the loudest one. When someone becomes aggressive with you, your first job is not to defeat them. Your first job is to control yourself. If you lose control of your emotions, they have already changed your state of mind. If they raise their voice and you immediately become angry, afraid, or confused, they now have power over the direction of the conversation. But if you stay calm, listen carefully, and choose your response instead of reacting automatically, you protect your power. This does not mean you should tolerate disrespect. Calmness is not weakness, and patience does not mean allowing people to walk over you. You can be calm and still be firm. You can speak quietly and still make your boundary clear. You can refuse something without becoming angry. You can disagree without turning the situation into a fight. The strongest response is often not the most emotional one. It is the one that shows you are still in control of yourself. If someone pressures you to give an immediate answer, you do not have to rush. You can say that you need time to think. If someone speaks disrespectfully, you can tell them that you will continue the conversation when they speak properly. If someone keeps interrupting you, you can calmly finish your point. If someone tries to make you feel guilty for saying no, you do not have to explain yourself for 20 minutes just to make them comfortable. Many people become intimidated because they feel they must respond perfectly. They think they need the perfect sentence, the perfect argument, or the perfect comeback. You do not. Sometimes simple words are stronger because they leave less room for manipulation. You can say, "I do not agree." You can say, "That does not work for me." You can say, "I need time to think." You can say, "Do not speak to me like that." You can simply say, "No." You do not owe everyone a long explanation. The more afraid you are of disappointing someone, the more likely you are to over-explain yourself. You start giving reasons, adding excuses, changing your words, and trying to convince the other person that your decision is acceptable. But when you constantly explain yourself, some people learn that your boundaries are negotiable. They begin pushing until you change your mind. A boundary becomes powerful when you are willing to keep it, even when someone does not like it. You also need to understand that some people become more aggressive when they realize they are losing control over you. The moment you begin saying no, speaking clearly, or refusing to be manipulated, they may accuse you of changing. They may say you are becoming difficult, disrespectful, selfish, or arrogant. Do not immediately assume they are right. Sometimes the only thing that changed is that you are no longer easy to control. This is why confidence requires emotional discipline. If every angry reaction makes you doubt yourself, people can use anger against you. If every disappointed face makes you change your mind, people can use disappointment against you. If every threat makes you panic, people can use fear against you. You have to become comfortable with the fact that protecting yourself may sometimes make another person uncomfortable. That does not make you cruel, it makes you responsible for your own peace. There will also be moments when walking away is stronger than continuing the argument. Not every confrontation needs to be won. Some people are not trying to understand you, they are trying to exhaust you. They twist your words, repeat the same accusations, and keep pushing until you become emotional. In those moments, ending the conversation may be the wisest choice. Walking away does not always mean you are afraid. Sometimes it means you recognize that the conversation has stopped being useful. Do not waste your energy trying to prove yourself to someone who has already decided not to listen. Another important lesson is to stop being impressed by someone simply because other people fear them. Maybe everyone becomes quiet when this person enters the room. Maybe people avoid disagreeing with them. Maybe they have a reputation for being difficult or powerful. That does not mean you have to inherit everyone else's fear. Judge people by what they actually do, not by the fear surrounding their name. You may discover that the person everyone finds intimidating is simply used to people backing down. When you stay respectful but steady, their power may become much smaller than you imagined. Still, strength does not mean becoming careless. If someone is genuinely dangerous, threatening, or abusive, protecting yourself is more important than proving courage. Leave the situation when necessary, seek help, and create distance. Courage is not staying in danger just to show that you are not afraid. Courage also means knowing when to protect yourself. The goal is not to become aggressive like the people who once intimidated you. The goal is to become difficult to control through fear. You want to reach a point where another person's anger does not immediately change your decisions, where their loud voice does not automatically make you feel small, and where their disappointment does not make you abandon what you know is right. That kind of strength is quiet. It comes from knowing who you are before entering the conversation. It comes from deciding what you will and will not accept. It comes from understanding that another person's emotions belong to them. You are responsible for your words and behavior, but you are not responsible for making everyone comfortable with your boundaries. The next time someone tries to intimidate you, do not immediately shrink. Slow yourself down, listen carefully, look at the situation clearly, speak only what needs to be said. Do not rush, do not beg for approval, and do not allow someone else's emotional intensity to decide your emotional state. You may still feel nervous. That is fine. Courage does not require you to feel completely calm inside. It only requires you to stop surrendering your choices to fear. Over time, something changes. People begin to notice that pressure does not move you as easily. Anger does not make you collapse. Guilt does not automatically make you say yes. You become calmer because you trust yourself more. And that is the real goal. Not to make others afraid of you, but to become someone who no longer becomes small simply because another person tries to act big. Chapter 6. Build proof that you can handle hard things. You cannot build real courage only by thinking positive thoughts. At some point, your mind needs evidence. You need moments from your own life that prove you can face discomfort, solve problems, survive rejection, handle pressure, and keep moving even when you feel afraid. This is how strong confidence is built. It is not created by repeating that you are fearless. It is created by doing difficult things and discovering that fear did not destroy you. Every time you face something that makes you uncomfortable, you give your mind new information about who you are. You have the conversation you wanted to avoid, and afterward, you realize you survived it. You speak in front of people while feeling nervous, and you realize nervousness did not stop you. You say no to someone who usually pressures you, and you discover that their disappointment is not the end of the world. You make a difficult decision, deal with the consequences, and learn that you are capable of carrying more than you thought. These experiences matter because confidence grows from evidence. Imagine someone who keeps telling themselves, "I am strong," but avoids every difficult situation. They avoid uncomfortable conversations, stay away from people who intimidate them, refuse opportunities because they might fail, and always choose the safest possible path. Their words may sound confident, but deep inside, their mind has very little proof. Every time they avoid something because of fear, the mind learns a dangerous lesson. I escaped because I could not handle it. That lesson becomes stronger with repetition. This is why avoidance feels good in the moment, but becomes expensive over time. You feel immediate relief when you cancel something that made you nervous. You feel relief when you stay silent instead of speaking honestly. You feel relief when you avoid making the call, asking the question, applying for the opportunity, or confronting the problem. But that relief teaches your brain that avoidance saved you. The next time the same situation appears, fear becomes stronger. Your mind remembers, last time we escaped this, so it must have been dangerous. Slowly your world becomes smaller. There are more places you do not want to go, more people you do not want to face, more conversations you do not want to have, and more opportunities you tell yourself are not worth the risk. What began as one small fear can eventually become a habit of hiding from life. The way out is not to suddenly force yourself into the most frightening situation you can imagine. The way out is to begin building proof slowly. Start with manageable acts of courage. If you are afraid to speak in front of people, you do not need to begin by standing on a stage in front of thousands. Begin by speaking once in a small group. Ask a question, share your opinion, say what you actually think, instead of staying silent. If you are afraid of confrontation, you do not need to begin with the most difficult person in your life. Begin by correcting a small misunderstanding. Tell someone when something does not work for you. Practice saying no without giving a long excuse. If you are afraid of being alone, spend a little time doing something independently. Go somewhere by yourself. Make a decision without asking 5 people whether they approve. Learn to trust your own company. Small, brave actions matter because your mind remembers them. Every time you do something difficult, imagine placing one piece of evidence into a box. At first, the box may be nearly empty. Your fear has years of evidence that says you avoid, hesitate, overthink, and back down. But now you begin adding different evidence. You faced it. You survived it. You figured it out. You stayed calm. You recovered. You tried again. You did not run. After enough experiences, the story inside your mind begins changing. You stop seeing yourself as someone who cannot handle pressure and begin seeing yourself as someone who has handled pressure before. You stop believing that rejection will destroy you because you remember the times you were rejected and continued living. You stop believing that embarrassment is unbearable because you have already felt embarrassed and survived. You stop believing that difficult people have complete power over you because you remember moments when you stood your ground. This is one of the most important things to understand about courage. You do not always feel stronger before you act. Often, you act first and feel stronger afterward. People wait for confidence because they think confidence must come before action. They say, when I feel ready, I will do it. When I stop being nervous, I will speak. When I become more confident, I will take the opportunity. But confidence often comes in the opposite order. First you act while nervous, then you survive. Then your mind learns, then confidence grows. You may never feel completely ready before doing something important. There will always be uncertainty because you cannot know exactly what will happen. The goal is not to remove all uncertainty. The goal is to become someone who can move while uncertainty is still there. Think about learning any difficult skill. The first time you do it, you feel awkward. You think too much about every movement. You worry about mistakes. Then you repeat it. Slowly, your body and mind understand the process. What once required enormous effort becomes normal. Courage works the same way. You train it through repetition. A person who regularly faces discomfort becomes different from someone who constantly protects themselves from it. The first person learns, discomfort passes, I can stay here. I can think. I can respond. The second person learns, discomfort means escape. Your daily choices are always teaching your mind one of these lessons. This does not mean you should seek suffering or create unnecessary problems. Courage is not hurting yourself to prove something. It means not automatically running from challenges that are necessary for your growth. There is a difference between unnecessary pain and useful discomfort. Useful discomfort is the nervousness you feel before speaking honestly. It is the uncertainty you feel when trying something new. It is the awkwardness of setting a boundary for the first time. It is the fear of applying for something bigger than what you have done before. It is the discomfort of admitting a mistake. It is the difficulty of ending a situation that is no longer healthy. Those moments are uncomfortable, but they can make you stronger. Every time you choose courage in one of those moments, you expand the amount of life you are capable of living. You should also begin remembering the evidence you already have. Many people underestimate themselves because they forget how much they have already survived. They remember their failures clearly, but forget their recoveries. Think carefully about your past. There were probably moments when you thought you could not handle what was happening. Maybe you lost something important. Maybe someone left your life. Maybe you failed at something you cared about. Maybe you were criticized, embarrassed, rejected, or disappointed. At the time, it may have felt enormous. But you are still here. You adapted. You learned something. You changed direction. You kept living. That is evidence. Do not dismiss it just because you did not handle everything perfectly. Courage does not mean handling every situation beautifully. Sometimes courage looks messy. Sometimes you cry and still continue. Sometimes your hands shake while you speak. Sometimes you need a day to recover before getting back up. Sometimes you make mistakes while facing something difficult. It still counts. Do not tell yourself that your courage was not real just because fear was present. If you moved while afraid, that is courage. If you spoke while nervous, that is courage. If you left while your heart wanted to stay, that is courage. If you tried again after failing, that is courage. If you asked for help when pride told you to stay silent, that is courage. If you admitted that something was wrong and decided to change it, that is courage. Your mind needs to notice these moments. Start giving yourself credit for them. Many people speak to themselves in a way they would never speak to someone else. They do something difficult and immediately focus on what they could have done better. They have a hard conversation and think, I should have sounded more confident. They take a risk and think, I looked nervous. They survive a difficult situation and think, anyone could have done that. This habit steals your own evidence. Instead, acknowledge the truth. Maybe you were nervous, but you did it anyway. Maybe you were imperfect, but you showed up. Maybe you did not know exactly what to say, but you did not run. That matters. Another way to build proof is to stop automatically asking other people to rescue you from every uncomfortable decision. Advice is useful, but there is a difference between getting guidance and refusing to trust yourself. If every decision requires 5 opinions before you can move, your mind begins believing other people know better than you. You stop practicing judgment. You become afraid to make mistakes because you are not used to carrying responsibility for your choices. Begin making small decisions on your own. Choose something without asking everyone whether it is correct. Trust your reasoning. Accept that sometimes you may make the wrong choice. If you do, learn from it. Mistakes are not proof that you should never trust yourself. They are part of learning how to trust yourself better. Everyone you consider confident has made bad decisions. Everyone you consider strong has misjudged situations. Everyone you admire has been wrong before. The difference is that strong people do not use one mistake as proof that they should never decide again. They correct themselves and continue. You need that same relationship with mistakes. Stop treating failure as an identity. Failure is information. If something does not work, ask what it taught you. Maybe you prepared poorly. Maybe you trusted the wrong person. Maybe your timing was wrong. Maybe you did not yet have the skill. Maybe you took the wrong approach. Good. Now you know something you did not know before. Use it. Fear becomes weaker when you stop seeing failure as a final judgment about who you are. This is especially important when dealing with people. Many people are terrified of speaking up because they fear rejection or conflict. But if you never speak honestly, you never discover how strong you can be in difficult conversations. Practice being clear. You do not need to be cruel. You do not need to become confrontational. You simply need to become more comfortable saying what is true. If something bothers you, say it respectfully. If you disagree, say so. If you need time, ask for time. If you cannot do something, say no. If someone crosses a boundary, address it. Each time you do this, you prove that your voice can survive another person's reaction. That is powerful evidence. You begin realizing that another person's disappointment does not destroy you. Someone being angry does not automatically mean you are wrong. Someone rejecting your boundary does not mean you should remove it. Your nervous system begins learning that conflict can be uncomfortable without being catastrophic. This kind of learning changes how you walk through the world. You become less afraid of difficult personalities because you trust your ability to respond. You become less afraid of uncertainty because you trust your ability to adapt. You become less afraid of mistakes because you trust your ability to correct them. Notice the pattern. The goal is not to control everything outside you. The goal is to trust what is inside you. This is why real confidence looks different from arrogance. Arrogance says, nothing can go wrong because I am better than everyone. Confidence says, things can go wrong, but I can deal with them. Arrogance needs to feel powerful all the time. Confidence can admit uncertainty. Arrogance avoids looking weak. Confidence can ask for help. Arrogance pretends it never makes mistakes. Confidence can say, I was wrong. Correct the mistake and keep moving. You want confidence, not performance. You do not need to convince everyone that you are fearless. In fact, the strongest people often have no need to prove anything. They know what they have survived. They know what they can handle. Their confidence comes from private evidence rather than public attention. Build that kind of evidence. Do something every week that reminds you that you are capable of more than comfort tells you. It does not have to be dramatic. Finish something you have been postponing. Go into the room you normally avoid. Speak to someone you feel nervous around. Try something where you might not be the best. Take responsibility for a mistake. Set a boundary. Have a difficult conversation. Ask for the opportunity. Walk away from something unhealthy. Each experience becomes part of your identity. Eventually, you stop having to convince yourself that you are strong because your life begins proving it. When another problem appears, you remember the problems you already solved. When someone tries to intimidate you, you remember the times you stood your ground. When failure becomes possible, you remember the failures you recovered from. When uncertainty appears, you remember all the situations where you did not know what would happen and still found your way through. This is how fear loses authority. It may still speak, but you no longer believe everything it says. Fear says, you cannot handle this. Your memory answers, I have handled difficult things before. Fear says, what if you fail? Your experience answers, then I will learn and adjust. Fear says, what if they reject you? Your life answers, I have survived rejection before. Fear says, what if everything changes? You answer, then I will change with it. That is what building proof does. It gives you something stronger than motivation. It gives you evidence. And evidence is difficult for fear to argue with. There will still be moments when you doubt yourself. There will still be situations that make your heart beat faster. There will still be people who intimidate you at first. Becoming courageous does not mean becoming emotionless. It means you stop treating fear as a command. Fear can speak. You can listen. Then you can decide for yourself. That is the difference between a person controlled by fear and a person who has learned to live with courage. Do not wait for a future version of yourself to become brave enough to live your life. Build that version now. Start with the next conversation, the next decision, the next uncomfortable step. Each time you move forward instead of hiding, you are training your mind to trust you. And one day, without even realizing when it happened, you will enter a situation that once would have terrified you. You will notice that your breathing stays steady. Your thoughts remain clear. You do not feel the same need to escape. The situation may not have become easier. You became stronger. That is the proof you are building. So stop waiting to feel fearless. Start collecting evidence that you can act while fear is present. Face small challenges. Keep your promises to yourself. Speak when you normally stay silent. Take responsibility for your decisions and stop running from every uncomfortable moment. Your courage will grow through use. Your confidence will grow through proof. And the more evidence you collect, the harder it becomes for fear to convince you that you are incapable. Eventually, the question in your mind changes. Instead of constantly asking, "What if I cannot handle this?" you begin asking, "What makes me think I cannot?" You remember what you have survived, what you have learned, how many times you have recovered, and how often you found a way when you thought there was no way. Then you move forward. Not because you know everything will be easy, not because you know everything will work, but because you have finally built enough proof to know that whatever happens, you will find a way to deal with it. Chapter 7. Become the person who knows. Whatever happens, I will handle it. The highest form of courage is not believing that life will always go your way. It is knowing that even when life does not go your way, you will still find a way forward. This is where real freedom begins. You stop asking the world to become easier before you allow yourself to feel strong. You stop needing every person to understand you, every plan to succeed, and every situation to feel safe. Instead, you begin trusting something deeper, your own ability to respond. Fear becomes powerful when you believe that one bad event could completely destroy you. You imagine rejection, failure, loss, embarrassment, conflict, or disappointment, and your mind tells you that you would not be able to handle it. But look carefully at your own life. You have already lived through moments you once thought would be too much for you. You have experienced disappointment and continued. You have faced uncertainty and eventually found an answer. You have lost things, changed plans, made mistakes, and survived difficult days. You may not have handled everything perfectly, but you handled enough to still be here. That matters more than you think. The goal is not to convince yourself that nothing painful will ever happen. That would not be realistic. People may leave your life. Someone may reject you. A plan you worked hard on may fail. You may lose money. You may make a mistake in front of others. You may be misunderstood. You may have to start again when you thought you were finally settled. Life can change quickly, and no amount of worrying can remove that truth. But uncertainty does not have to become terror. You can learn to look at the unknown and say, "I do not know exactly what will happen, but I trust myself to meet it when it comes." That is a completely different way of living. A fearful person wants guarantees before taking action. They want to know that the relationship will work before opening their heart, that the business will succeed before beginning, that people will approve before speaking honestly, and that there will be no embarrassment before trying something new. But life rarely gives guarantees. If you wait until there is no risk, you may wait forever. A courageous person understands that certainty is not required for movement. They prepare as well as they can, make the best decision available, and then move. They do not know every answer. They simply trust themselves enough to learn the answers along the way. This trust is not built in one dramatic moment. It is built through years of small experiences. Every problem you faced, every difficult conversation you survived, every mistake you corrected, and every painful season you moved through became evidence. Even the moments you wish had never happened may have taught you something about your own strength. Think about a time when something ended and you believed life would never feel normal again. At first, maybe everything reminded you of what you lost. Your mind kept returning to the same memories. You wondered how you would move forward. Then slowly, life continued. New routines formed. New people appeared. Your attention moved elsewhere. The pain changed. You did not remain exactly the same person, but you adapted. That is what human beings do. We adapt. This is one of your greatest abilities, yet fear often makes you forget it. Fear looks at change and says, "You will not know what to do." Experience says, "You will learn." Fear says, "You will never recover." Your past says, "You have recovered before." Fear says, "If this person leaves, everything will fall apart." Life says, "People have left before, and you continued." Fear says, "If this plan fails, it is over." Wisdom says, "Then you build another plan. You must begin trusting your ability to adjust instead of demanding that life never change." This is especially important when dealing with people. If you believe you cannot survive someone's rejection, you will become easy to control. You may tolerate disrespect because you are afraid they will leave. You may stay silent because you fear their anger. You may agree with things you do not believe because you want to remain accepted. But the moment you know, even if they walk away, "I will be okay," your behavior changes. You become more honest. You stop begging. You stop over-explaining. You stop chasing people who keep showing you that they do not value your presence. You stop treating another person's approval like oxygen. This does not mean you become cold. It means you stop confusing love with fear. Healthy relationships should not require you to constantly abandon yourself just to prevent someone from leaving. If someone can only stay in your life when you remain silent, weak, obedient, or afraid, then their presence is costing you too much. Trust yourself enough to let people make their own decisions. If they stay, let it be because there is respect. If they leave, let yourself grieve and then keep moving. You can care deeply about someone without making them the foundation of your entire identity. The same principle applies to problems. Many people look at one difficult situation and immediately think, "My life is ruined." But problems are events, not entire identities. A financial problem does not mean you are a failure as a human being. A failed relationship does not mean you are unlovable. Losing an opportunity does not mean there will never be another one. Making a mistake does not mean you are permanently damaged. You have to stop allowing temporary situations to write permanent stories about you. A difficult chapter is still only a chapter. Your mind may try to convince you that this moment is everything. Pain has a way of making the present feel permanent. When you are inside a difficult situation, it is hard to imagine yourself outside of it. But almost everything changes with time, action, learning, and perspective. The problem you are facing today may look completely different 1 year from now. The person you are afraid of disappointing may not even be part of your life later. The mistake that feels enormous today may eventually become one of the lessons that made you wiser. Do not let a temporary moment convince you that your whole future has already been decided. You also need to understand that handling something does not always mean fixing it immediately. Sometimes handling life means accepting what cannot be changed. Sometimes it means walking away. Sometimes it means asking for help. Sometimes it means resting long enough to think clearly. Sometimes it means admitting that your original plan is no longer working. Strength is not stubbornness. There are people who stay in terrible situations because they think leaving would mean weakness. They keep forcing a plan that is failing because they are afraid to admit they need a different direction. They refuse help because they think strong people should solve everything alone. But wisdom knows when to adjust. If the road is closed, you find another road. If someone repeatedly proves they cannot be trusted, you stop giving them the same access. If a plan no longer makes sense, you change it. If you need help, you ask for it. That is not failure, that is adaptation. The belief, whatever happens, I will handle it, does not mean I will control everything. It means I will respond to reality instead of collapsing because reality changed. This mindset gives you an incredible amount of peace because you stop spending your life trying to control things that were never fully under your control. You cannot control whether everyone likes you. You cannot control every opportunity. You cannot control every mistake another person makes. You cannot control the economy, the future, other people's moods, or every unexpected event. But you can control your next decision. You can control whether you speak honestly. You can control whether you stay or leave. You can control whether you learn or remain bitter. You can control whether you ask for help. You can control whether you keep going. That is where your power lives. Fear wants you looking everywhere else. It wants you obsessed with what someone might do, what could happen tomorrow, what people might think, and what you might lose. Courage brings your attention back to the part you can actually influence. Ask yourself, what can I do from here? That question is powerful because it assumes there is still a next step. Maybe the next step is small. Maybe all you can do today is make one phone call, send one message, create one plan, save a little money, apologize, say no, or begin again. That is enough. You do not need to see the entire road to keep moving. Think about how you walk through darkness with a small light. You may not be able to see a mile ahead, but you can see enough to take the next few steps. Then from that new position, you see a little more. Life often works like that. You keep demanding answers for the next 5 years when you may only need the courage for the next 5 days. Stop trying to solve your entire future at once. Handle today well, then handle tomorrow when it arrives. This mindset becomes especially important after failure. When something goes wrong, the first voice in your mind may say, "See, you should never have tried." Fear loves using failure as evidence that courage was a mistake. Do not believe it. Trying and failing is not proof that you should become afraid again. It is proof that you entered life instead of watching from a distance. Study what happened. Ask what you could do differently. Take responsibility where necessary. Then continue. One failure does not deserve control over your next 10 decisions. Do not give it that power. There are people who experience one rejection and spend years refusing to try again. One relationship hurts them and they stop trusting everyone. One business fails and they never create again. One person laughs at them and they spend the rest of their life hiding their ideas. That is how one moment becomes a prison. You must refuse to let your past become the permanent ruler of your future. Learn from what happened, but do not build your identity around it. You are allowed to become different from the person who made that mistake. You are allowed to become stronger than the person who was once afraid. You are allowed to respond differently next time. This is why self-trust matters so much. When you trust yourself, failure becomes less frightening because you know you will not abandon yourself afterward. You will not spend the next 10 years insulting yourself. You will not decide that your worth disappeared because something went wrong. You will look at the situation honestly, take the lesson, and keep moving. That is emotional strength. It also means you stop expecting yourself to always feel strong. There will be days when confidence is low. There will be mornings when uncertainty feels heavy. There will be situations where old fears return. Do not treat these moments as proof that you have failed. You are human. Courage is not a permanent emotion. It is a decision you may have to make again and again. Some mornings you may need to remind yourself, I have handled difficult days before. Some conversations may require you to breathe slowly before speaking. Some decisions may still make you nervous. That does not erase your growth. A strong person can feel fear and still move. A confident person can feel doubt and still make a decision. A courageous person can feel pain and still refuse to surrender. Do not wait until your emotions become perfect. Work with the emotions you have. Another part of becoming fearless is learning that embarrassment is survivable. Many people are not really afraid of danger. They are afraid of looking foolish. They worry about saying the wrong thing, being laughed at, failing publicly, or being judged. But embarrassment passes. Most people are thinking about themselves far more than they are thinking about you. The mistake you replay for months may have been forgotten by everyone else in a few minutes. Do not sacrifice years of your life trying to avoid a few uncomfortable moments. Speak, try, ask, create. Take the chance. You may look imperfect sometimes. Good. That means you are participating in life. Nobody builds a meaningful life without moments of awkwardness, mistakes, rejection, and uncertainty. The people who appear fearless are not always people who never experience these things. Often they are simply people who stopped treating them as emergencies. They know embarrassment will pass. They know criticism will pass. They know disappointment will pass. They know fear itself will pass. This is the attitude you want to build. Not, nothing bad can happen to me, but bad moments can happen and I will remain capable. That is much stronger. Eventually, this mindset begins changing how you walk into rooms. You stop checking everyone's face for signs of approval. You stop trying to guess who is judging you. You stop making powerful people larger than life. You stop entering conversations already defeated. You begin showing up as yourself. You listen, you speak, you disagree when necessary. You stay quiet when there is nothing useful to say. You leave when staying would cost your dignity. You no longer need to perform strength because you have built it internally. That is what it means to walk through life without fear. It does not mean the world becomes harmless. It means fear stops being your master. People can still challenge you, but they cannot automatically control you. Problems can still surprise you, but they cannot automatically convince you that everything is over. Uncertainty can still make you uncomfortable, but it cannot automatically stop you from moving. You have learned the most important lesson. Whatever happens, there will still be a next decision. There will still be something you can do. There will still be a way to respond. You may need to change direction. You may need to rebuild. You may need to let go. You may need to begin again. But beginning again is not the end of your story. Sometimes it is the beginning of a better one. So when life becomes uncertain, do not immediately ask, "How can I guarantee that nothing goes wrong?" Ask, "Who do I want to be if something does go wrong?" Do you want to be the person who panics before understanding the situation, or the person who looks clearly and responds? Do you want to be the person who allows someone's opinion to destroy their confidence, or the person who listens, learns what is useful, and continues? Do you want to be the person who spends years afraid of failure, or the person who knows failure can become instruction? Your answer becomes your character. There will come a point when you stop saying, "I hope I am strong enough," because you have already proved it to yourself too many times. You will remember the conversations you survived, the people you walked away from, the problems you solved, the nights that ended, the failures you learned from, the times you started again. All of it becomes evidence. Then when fear whispers, "This might be too much for you," something stronger inside you answers, "Maybe it will be difficult, but difficult is not the same as impossible." That is the voice you need to strengthen, the voice that does not promise comfort, the voice that promises presence, the voice that says, "I will not abandon myself when things become hard," because that is ultimately what fear is asking you to do. It is asking you to abandon your own judgment, your own voice, your own future, and your own dignity, just to avoid discomfort. Do not make that trade. Stay with yourself. If someone rejects you, stay with yourself. If a plan fails, stay with yourself. If you make a mistake, stay with yourself. If you have to start again, stay with yourself. If others misunderstand you, stay with yourself. You are going to spend your entire life with the person inside your own mind. Make that relationship strong. Speak to yourself like someone you are responsible for leading through difficult times. Do not say, everything is ruined. Say, what do we do next? Do not say, I cannot handle this. Say, let me handle the next part. Do not say, everyone is against me. Say, whose opinion actually matters here? Do not say, I need to know exactly how this ends. Say, I only need enough courage for the next step. This kind of inner language can completely change your relationship with life. You become less afraid because you stop treating yourself as helpless. You become calmer because you stop demanding certainty. You become stronger because you stop running every time discomfort appears. And slowly, a deep confidence begins replacing the old fear. Not loud confidence, not arrogance, not the need to show everyone how strong you are. Quiet confidence. The kind that says, I have been through hard things before. The kind that says, I can think clearly under pressure. The kind that says, I can leave what is unhealthy. The kind that says, I can rebuild if I have to. The kind that says, I do not need everyone to approve of me. That is the person you are becoming. So when you walk into the next difficult situation, remember everything you have learned. Do not make people bigger than you. Do not let their opinions become your identity. Do not turn problems into monsters before you understand them. Do not rehearse disaster before anything has happened. Do not let aggressive people decide how small you become. Keep building proof that you can handle hard things. Then carry one final belief with you wherever you go. Whatever happens, I will handle it. Not perfectly, not without emotion, not without mistakes, but I will handle it. If I fall, I will get up with more knowledge. If I fail, I will study what happened and try again. If someone leaves, I will grieve and continue. If someone dislikes me, I will not abandon myself to earn their approval. If life changes, I will change with it. If one road closes, I will look for another. This is how fear loses control over your life. You stop waiting for the world to become safe enough for you to live. You begin living because you finally trust yourself enough to face the world as it is. And from that moment forward, you walk differently. You respect people, but you do not worship them. You prepare for problems, but you do not bow before them. You understand risk, but you do not allow it to steal every opportunity. You accept that the future is uncertain, but you refuse to spend today being afraid of tomorrow. Fear no person, because every person is human. Fear no problem, because every problem has a next step. Fear no situation, because even when you cannot control what happens, you can still control how you respond. Walk forward with that knowledge. You may not know what is coming, but you know who is meeting it. And that changes everything. Chapter 8. Stop asking fear for permission to live. There is a dangerous habit that many people develop without realizing it. Before they make a decision, speak honestly, take a risk, walk away from something unhealthy, or begin something new, they first check how afraid they feel. If the fear is strong, they stop. If they feel uncertain, they wait. If their confidence is low, they tell themselves that maybe it is not the right time. This means fear slowly becomes the person giving permission for your life. You only move when fear says it is safe. You only speak when fear says nobody will judge you. You only try when fear says failure is unlikely. You only leave when fear says nobody will be disappointed. You only take opportunities when fear promises you will not look foolish. But fear will rarely give you that kind of permission. Fear is designed to protect you from uncertainty. It does not know the difference between something truly dangerous and something simply unfamiliar. A new opportunity can feel dangerous. A difficult conversation can feel dangerous. Saying no can feel dangerous. Being seen can feel dangerous. Changing your life can feel dangerous. If you wait until fear completely disappears, you may spend years standing in the same place. This is why courage is not about waiting for permission from your emotions. Courage is learning that your feelings can speak without becoming the final authority over your decisions. You can feel afraid and still say yes. You can feel nervous and still speak. You can feel uncertain and still move. You can feel uncomfortable and still know that something is right for you. Your emotions are information, but they are not always instructions. This is one of the most important lessons you can learn. Many people say, "I do not feel ready." But feeling ready is not always something that comes before action. Often, readiness is created through action. You become ready by beginning. You become confident by practicing. You become stronger by doing something before you feel completely strong. Think about almost every major change in life. The first day of a new job can feel uncomfortable. Starting a business can feel uncertain. Moving to a new place can feel frightening. Speaking in front of people can make your heart race. Leaving a relationship can make you question yourself. Taking responsibility for your own life can feel heavy. If you believe discomfort means stop, you may never cross the line between your old life and your new one. Sometimes discomfort simply means you are entering unfamiliar territory. You need to stop automatically asking, "Do I feel afraid?" and begin asking better questions. Ask, "Is this actually dangerous? Or is it just unfamiliar?" Ask, "What will happen if I keep avoiding this?" Ask, "What choice would I make if fear were not making the decision?" Ask, "What would the stronger version of me do here?" These questions move your attention away from emotion and toward truth. Fear often makes temporary discomfort look more important than long-term regret. You avoid speaking because silence feels easier today, but then you spend months wishing you had said something. You avoid an opportunity because rejection feels uncomfortable today, but years later, you wonder what might have happened if you had tried. You stay in an unhealthy situation because leaving feels painful now, but staying slowly costs you your confidence. You keep waiting for the perfect moment because uncertainty feels uncomfortable, but the perfect moment never arrives. This is how fear steals time. It rarely steals your entire life in one dramatic moment. It usually steals it in small decisions. Not today, maybe later. I will wait until I feel more confident. I will do it when things become easier. I will speak when I know exactly what to say. I will leave when I am no longer afraid. Years can disappear inside sentences like these. You must become careful with the habit of postponing your life. There are moments when waiting is wise. Sometimes you genuinely need more information, money, preparation, or time. But there is also a kind of waiting that is simply fear wearing intelligent clothes. Fear says, "I am just being careful." But sometimes you are not being careful, you are hiding. Fear says, "I need more time to think." But sometimes you have already thought about it for months. Fear says, "I am waiting for the right moment." But sometimes the right moment is the moment when you finally decide to begin. Learn to recognize the difference. One of the best ways to know whether fear is controlling you is to notice whether you keep making the same promise to yourself. "I will do it next week." Next week comes, you delay again. "I will do it next month." Next month comes. You still do nothing. Eventually, the problem is no longer timing. The problem is avoidance. You have to stop negotiating endlessly with the part of you that wants complete safety. There is no completely safe version of a meaningful life. If you love someone, you risk loss. If you build something, you risk failure. If you speak honestly, you risk disagreement. If you become visible, you risk criticism. If you pursue something important, you risk disappointment. If you change, you risk losing people who preferred the old version of you. Risk does not mean you are doing something wrong. It often means you are doing something that matters. This does not mean becoming reckless. Courage and recklessness are not the same thing. Courage understands the risk and still makes a thoughtful decision. Recklessness ignores consequences. You should still think, you should still prepare, you should still protect yourself. But once you have thought clearly, do not allow fear to create endless reasons to delay. Make the decision. There is a great difference between thinking about courage and practicing courage. You can listen to hundreds of motivational speeches. You can read books about confidence. You can tell yourself every morning that you are becoming stronger. All of this can help, but eventually life will ask you to demonstrate what you believe. This is how courage is built. Not through one perfect day, but through hundreds of small decisions where you choose not to run. Every time you speak when fear tells you to stay silent, you become stronger. Every time you set a boundary, you become stronger. Every time you try something without knowing the outcome, you become stronger. Every time you recover after disappointment, you become stronger. Every time life pushes you down and you choose to continue, you create evidence that fear cannot easily argue with. Eventually, you stop asking, "What if something goes wrong?" and begin asking, "What will I do if it does?" That question changes everything, because you realize that you do not need control over every outcome. You only need confidence in your ability to respond. You may have to change direction. You may have to start again. You may have to leave people behind. You may have to admit that you were wrong. You may have to rebuild something you thought was permanent. But none of these things means your life is finished. Sometimes losing one direction is how you discover another. Sometimes rejection protects you from a place where you did not belong. Sometimes failure forces you to grow. Sometimes walking away is what finally gives you your confidence back. So stop treating every ending like destruction. Stop treating every disagreement like rejection. Stop treating every mistake like proof that you are not capable. And stop treating every feeling of fear like a warning that you should turn around. You are allowed to be nervous and continue. You are allowed to be uncertain and decide. You are allowed to be afraid and still move forward. That is courage. From this point forward, walk into rooms remembering that no person is greater than your dignity. Face problems, knowing that every problem can be broken into smaller steps. Enter uncertainty, knowing that you do not need to see the entire road before taking the next step. Do not become arrogant. Become grounded. Do not become careless. Become courageous. Do not become cold. Become difficult to control through fear. Respect people without fearing them. Listen to advice without surrendering your judgment. Care about people without abandoning yourself to keep them happy. And when life becomes difficult, remember everything you have already survived. Remember the days you thought would never end. Remember the problems that once felt impossible. Remember the people you thought you could never live without. Remember the mistakes you believed would define you forever. You continued, you adapted, you learned, you changed, you are still here. Let that become your evidence. The next time fear tells you, you cannot handle this, do not argue with it for hours. Look at your own history and answer with something simple. I have handled difficult things before, and I will handle this one too. Walk through life with that belief. Fear no person, because every person is human. Fear no problem, because every problem has a next step. Fear no situation, because situations change and you can change with them. You do not need the world to become less intimidating. You need to stop seeing yourself as someone who can be easily defeated by it. Stand taller. Think clearly. Speak honestly. Protect your peace. Trust your decisions. Take the next step. You may not know exactly what tomorrow will bring, but you can know this. Whatever comes, you will meet it with more courage than you had yesterday. And that is how you walk through life without fear.